Politics makes for some pretty strange bedfellows. But this one? This one is something else. We're about to dive into a moment when President Donald Trump and one of his fiercest media critics, the Washington Post, actually found themselves on the same side of a major military issue. It's this really fascinating story where, for a moment, policy completely overshadowed politics. Okay, so this quote right here, this is really the heart of the whole thing. From the Washington Post's own editorial board, the president's righteous strike. I mean, you just don't hear those kinds of words from the Post about the Trump administration, pretty much ever. So what on earth could have prompted this kind of praise?
So yeah, that's the big question we're going to dig into. And it's not just about a surprising headline, right? It's about these really complex global issues that can actually push the staunchest opponents onto the same side. All right, so to really get to the bottom of that, we've got to start with what actually happened. Let's break down the specific event that kicked this all off. So what are we talking about here? It was a U.S. military airstrike that happened on Christmas night of all times in northwest Nigeria. And the target, ISIS militants. Specifically, the administration said they were going after the people responsible for just viciously killing innocent Christians in that area. And President Trump himself was the one who announced it. His post on Truth Social was, well, exactly what you'd expect. Super direct, really forceful. It left zero doubt about where his administration stood. He called it a totally necessary action and basically promised there'd be more coming if the violence didn't stop. Okay, so that's the what, but the why. Why on earth did the Washington Post support it? Well, that's all about the context. We need to zoom out and look at the region itself to understand why they saw this as so important. And this really sets the stage. See, for years, the world was laser-focused on counterterrorism in the Middle East, right? But as groups like ISIS got pushed out of places like Iraq and Syria, they didn't just vanish. Nope. They basically metastasized, spreading out to new, really unstable regions. And West Africa, it became one of their top new destinations. And this number right here, wow, it just perfectly shows you the scale of this problem. 50%. Let that sink in. Half of all terrorism-related deaths worldwide are now happening in this one region of Africa. I mean, that's a staggering statistic. It tells you this isn't some small regional issue anymore. It's the new global epicenter of terror. And just so we're all clear on what we're talking about, the Sahel is this huge, sprawling stretch of land right across Africa. Think of it like a belt separating the Sahara Desert from the savannas. And unfortunately, it's a region with a lot of weak governments, borders that are easy to cross, and widespread poverty. And those are the exact conditions that terrorist groups are, tragically, really, really good at exploiting. And here's the comparison that really makes you sit up and pay attention. The Post is worrying that an al-Qaeda affiliate is getting dangerously close to taking over the entire country of Mali. Now, if that happens, it would be a chilling echo of the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. We are literally talking about the potential for a brand new terrorist-run state. But, and this is a really big but, the Post's praise was not a blank check. Not at all. They supported the strike, yeah, but they immediately followed it up with a really crucial warning. A single strike is not a strategy. And that was their whole point, really. The Post saw the strike as a positive step, for sure, but they were worried it might just be a one-and-done kind of thing. So their praise very quickly turned into a challenge. They were basically asking, okay, is this just a one-off decision, or is this the beginning of a real, consistent policy for the region? And look, this wasn't just them guessing. The Post pointed to some pretty specific evidence. You had this Trans-Sahara counterterrorism partnership that was found to be, quote, underfunded, leaderless, and mostly ineffective. Then there was talk at the Pentagon about maybe merging the Africa Command back into the European Command, basically downgrading it. And on top of all that, they noted that for the president, this whole region has often felt like an afterthought. So all these things together, they just screamed inconsistent plan. So this all brings us to the final piece of the Post's argument. The global stakes. Why should the U.S. even care about instability happening thousands of miles away? Well, because in the world we live in today, no region is really an island, is it? So the editorial board basically laid out two very different paths, a clear choice. Path number one, sustained U.S. engagement. That means counterterrorism partnerships, supporting stability in the region, securing U.S. interests. But path number two, disengagement. And that creates a power vacuum, a vacuum that our competitors like China and Russia would be more than happy to fill.
all while the risk of global terror just keeps on growing. And this really gets to the core of the Post's whole argument. The idea that America can just build a wall around itself and pretend that chaos in West Africa isn't our problem, they say that's just a dangerous fantasy. Because as we saw with the Islamic State, when a terror group gets a safe place to operate, it's really only a matter of time before they start exporting that chaos to the rest of the world.
So here we are, right back where we started, facing a really tough question. Yeah, the Post and Trump agreed on this one specific strike, but that bigger challenge from the editorial, it's still hanging in the air. In a world that seems to be getting more and more unstable, what's the line between a targeted righteous strike and getting dragged into another long-term war? That, right there, is the huge dilemma at the heart of this entire debate.